Listening is an act of love. Thank you. You can help lift up the voices, stories, and challenges we share by making a contribution at thiswayout.org.
A sincere thank you to all of you who already support This Way Out. Your support matters.
I'm Tanya Kane-Parry.
And I'm Michael LeBeau.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending August 7th, 2021. 21 human rights activists in Ghana were freed by a court in the city of Ho on August 5th. They had been arrested in a raid in May for unlawful assembly, ironically during a workshop on documenting and reporting rights abuses against LGBTQ people. Chief Superintendent Okologu Yakubu Ayama told Reuters that the court found there was not enough evidence to convict the 16 women and 5 men. He said that they cannot be brought back to court on the same charges, so they have been freed. They've all been out on bail since June. Private consensual adult same-gender sex is currently punishable in the West African nation by 3 years in prison. Books and flyers with titles like Coming Out and All About Trans were confiscated by police in the raid as evidence of illegal activity. But so-called promotion of homosexuality is not a crime in Ghana yet. The recently introduced Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill would change that. It would punish any expression of LGBTQ identity or support for LGBTQ people, even providing medical care to LGBTQ people, with up to 10 years in prison. Critics call it the most anti-queer legislation the world has ever seen. Alex Kofi Donkor of LGBTQ Rights Ghana finds the bill simply unacceptable in the 21st century. He told The Voice of America, "I think this is the time that organizations and countries that believe in human rights begin to speak out about this hate bill. Ghana needs to be called out on the international level."
A gay pro-democracy activist has been in a Hong Kong jail since February and could be there for much longer. 34-year-old Jimmy Sham allegedly violated China's national security law. The law prohibits inciting rebellion and subversion of the state, as well as collusion with foreign powers. It's being used to crack down on demonstrations supporting the democratic institutions established under British rule, as mainland-supportive Hong Kong officials attempt to rein in personal liberties in the city. The national security law took effect in June 2020 and carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. Sham was one of almost 4 dozen activists arrested for participating in an election organized by the opposition. Amnesty International reports that he has been denied bail repeatedly and charges that Sham is being punished simply for speaking out for his community and LGBTQIA+ rights. Sham helps lead the Civil Human Rights Front and the group Rainbow of Hong Kong, according to Pink News. He married his husband in New York 7 years ago. Meanwhile, the Taiwan Gay Sports and Movement Association won't be sending competitors to the next gay games scheduled to be held in Hong Kong next year. President Yang Chi-chun told Agence France-Presse this week that his group wants to ensure the personal safety of our athletes.
Thugs linked to the white supremacist Tradition and Order group failed to dampen the zeal of an LGBTQ Pride rally in Kyiv. About 100 activists held a 6-hour rave event outside the office of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on July 30th. They withstood a steady stream of hurled insults and objects. Activists said that the police were slow to respond to the assault, but finally used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse the assailants. 2 arrests were reported. Queer activists say Zelensky failed to advance LGBTQ rights since his election in 2019, even though he ran as a liberal reformer. LGBTQ people have no legal protections in the Eastern European nation, although an LGBTQ-inclusive hate crimes bill is pending in Parliament. If the Zelensky government cannot at least advance that bill, There were hints this week that Ukraine might find itself in the crosshairs of the European Union, which is cracking down on the anti-queer governments of Hungary and Poland.
That homophobic Polish government lashed out at Germany this week after a court in Cologne fined a conservative Krakow-based theology professor for inciting hatred. An article by Dariusz Oko in the German magazine Theologisches criticized what he called the homosexual influence in the Vatican. Oko described LGBTQ priests as parasites and cancerous ulcers, and labeled the movement for LGBTQ rights homo heresy. The inflammatory magazine article was an excerpt from Oko's anti-queer book, The Lavender Mafia. Oko's defenders claim that his writings constitute academic discussion. The church wields considerable political power in Roman Catholic-dominated Poland. To Polish Deputy Justice Minister Marcin Romanowski, the imposition of penalties for what he called Oko's scientific activities represents a threat to fundamental freedoms and European standards. Munich priest Wolfgang F. Rotu filed the inciting hatred complaint against Oko. The Polish theologian plans to appeal the ruling, which carries a penalty of 120 days in jail or a 4,800 euro fine. That's the equivalent of more than $5,600 US.
The legal recognition of gay and lesbian couples in the Cayman Islands helped clear the way for the first ever LGBTQ Pride parade there. Cayman Premier Wayne Panton, opposition MP Barbara Connolly, and Governor Martin Roper joined an estimated 600 marchers in Georgetown on July 31st. COVID-19 vaccinations were required for all participants. In his remarks, Governor Roper referenced the British Territories Civil Partnership Law, which took effect last September.
Today is a step in the right direction. I think on LGBTQ plus rights, we've still got a way to go, but we're making progress step by step. And I think today, after the Civil Partnership Bill, Act of Parliament now, which was passed, which gives same-sex couples legal rights in our jurisdiction. And I think that really helped pave the way for events like this today.
The Cayman LGBTQ Foundation organized the event. Wary of rumored, possibly violent counter-protests along the parade route, they opted for keeping it especially conservative. Pride celebrants were discouraged from public displays of affection in order to maintain a respectful event, which discouraged some LGBTQ activists from participating. Speaking to the post-parade rally, Foundation founder and president Noel Kayaso-Smith acknowledged their criticism, but thanked opponents for staying home.
I grew up here as a Caymanian, and this is a truly, truly special day to me. And I would like to thank the vast community in the Cayman Islands who may not have supported us, but did not come out to ridicule us.
Kayasu-Smith said that he looks forward to a bigger and better Cayman Islands Pride event in 2022.
The legal arm of the largest queer advocacy group in the U.S. filed suit this week on behalf of 2 Tennessee trans children and their parents. The Human Rights Campaign Foundation is challenging the recently enacted state law that prohibits children from using school bathrooms and locker rooms that align with their gender identity. Defenders of the measure argue that schools are required to provide reasonable accommodation to students or staff who are unwilling or unable to use campus facilities that match their birth gender. However, those accommodations are limited to a single occupancy restroom or changing facility. The 2 plaintiffs are identified by pseudonyms for obvious reasons. Alex is a 14-year-old trans boy. Ariel is a 6-year-old trans girl. Ariel's mother says her daughter began transitioning 2 years ago. While Ariel doesn't completely understand the law, she told her mother that having to use the boys' bathroom when she starts first grade next month would be really weird because I'm a girl. The case of trailblazing trans student Gavin Grimm may have paved the way for a favorable ruling this time. Earlier this year, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to review appeals court rulings that found in Grimm's favor regarding similar bathroom locker room restrictions by his Virginia school district.
Finally, over-the-top homophobia may force the Central Bank of Egypt to change the design of its new 10 and 20-pound polymer banknotes. Social media exploded with denunciations after photos of the new bills appeared on the bank's website this week. At issue is the apparent image of a rainbow over a well-known mosque. Some in the socially conservative country presumed that it was the designer's subtle promotion of LGBTQ rights. One post called it a great scandal and a sin. A defensive press statement from the bank explained that the current designs are not necessarily the final versions. They clarified that the rainbow is simply a secure watermark feature to prevent counterfeiting.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending August 7th, 2021. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm Tanya Kane Perry. Stay healthy.
And I'm Michael LeBeau. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world, and we are also a free online news service. You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org. Please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out. We will respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show. You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture. Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.